Hey guys, tonight we're wandering into one of those myths that sounds simple at first. A goddess, a loom, a mortal girl, but slowly unravels like a very dramatic soap opera. Except everyone's in togas and no one has therapy. You're about to follow Athena, goddess of wisdom and battle strategy, into what might be her most emotionally damaging moment, a weaving contest. Yes, really, no swords, no monsters. Just two women, some thread, and a whole lot of suppressed ego. And honestly, you wouldn't survive it. Not even with divine Wi-Fi and unlimited iced coffee. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Leave a comment letting me know what time it is where you are, and where in the world you're listening from. I always love seeing how far these sleepy stories travel. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're walking along a stone path, winding into ancient Athens on a night so thick with heat, it feels like the air is draped over your shoulders. The marble buildings glow under the pale moonlight, casting soft silver shadows that stretch across the ground like silk unraveling from a spool. It should be peaceful, really. The market's closed, the wine cellars are packing up, and somewhere, a cat knocks over a jar like it's part of its nightly ritual. But you can feel it, that pressure. Like a storm's coming, except it isn't weather, it's something bigger. Something divine. Athens tonight isn't the stage for grand speeches or glimmering banquets. It's the silent backdrop to a goddess quietly seething. Athena. Yes, that Athena is in a mood. The trouble began small. As all epic disasters do. Just a whisper from some little town in Lydia. A mortal girl, they say, who can weave like no one else. Not just well, better. Better than the gods. And if you know anything about the gods, you know that right there. That's where things begin to unravel. Athena hears about it, of course. Imagine her face. The great strategist. Patron of cities. The inventor of chariots and the flute, and some say, the olive. Sitting there in Olympus, sipping whatever immortals sip, when some minor wind deity delivers the message. Hey, have you heard about this girl named Arachne? That was the moment Athena became, let's say, emotionally activated. Tonight, you follow her. Not that you're walking beside her exactly, but you're here, present, a quiet spectator. She moves through the dark with her cloak of invisibility, because yes, obviously she has one of those. Everyone important in mythology has at least one fashion item that breaks physics. The forest hums as she passes. Birds hush, the night holds its breath. Even the shadows seem unsure whether to lean away or bow. You wonder, are you dreaming? Possibly. It wouldn't be the weirdest dream you've had. You once dreamed you were a sentient spoon in a god's kitchen, so the only sound is her footsteps and the occasional hoot of her owl, gliding silently above. And on the breeze, Arachne. 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 The name echoes like a spell, or a warning, or both. Back in the city, life goes on. People laugh over half-finished amphorae of wine. Someone argues over whether Poseidon or Apollo has better hair. A child carves a rude word into a bench and runs. It's a normal night in Athens, which is to say, mildly chaotic with a hint of fermented grapes. No one suspects that tonight, history is about to pivot. Not because of war, not politics, but because a goddess is feeling insecure. You pause at a worn stone wall, resting your hand on an old carving, maybe a poem, maybe just some bored teenager writing, Hermes was here. It's Athens. The stones are covered in memory. Athena moves ahead, silent but fuming. And you, oddly, are still with her. You don't know why you can see this. Maybe you're part of a dream. Maybe you're just a floating conscience in the mist of myth. Either way, lucky you. The air thickens. Somewhere in the trees, a cricket chirps and immediately regrets it. You walk slower now, as if the very night has grown cautious. Athena isn't speaking, but you can feel her thoughts like pressure, building in a storm cloud. This isn't the first time a mortal has claimed godlike talent. But there's something about this girl, about the way people say it. They don't fear her. They admire her. And that, dear listener, is a different kind of threat altogether. You've never seen a goddess jealous before. Not in the movie Meltdown, throw a tantrum way, but the cold, tight jealousy of someone used to reverence, now faced with competition. Athena won't say it, of course, but her owl knows. You can tell. The bird shifts nervously on her shoulder. Her lips press into a line sharp enough to cut thread. She's not afraid of losing. No, that's not what gods feel. She's afraid the rumors might be true. And that's somehow worse. You sit on a low stone. It's still warm from the day's sun. Above you, the sky is vast and dark, and you look for constellations. The spider isn't there yet, not tonight. But maybe soon. You don't know it yet, but you're at the edge of something strange. And beautiful Dot, a contest is coming. A quiet one, without crowds or trumpets. Just two women, a pair of looms, and centuries of pride. You yawn, your legs tired. The night is deepening around you like ink in water. You hear the flap of owl wings, fading into the distance. The glow of a single torch disappears into the hills, and just before sleep pulls at your thoughts, the wind brushes your cheek, carrying the scent of raw wool, sour wine, and oddly, something like cheap soap mixed with competitive tension. Have no idea that soon, you'll witness a weaving match that will become legend. And it all begins with a goddess in a very bad mood. You wake to the sound of murmurs, thin, papery voices that flutter in the air like moths. They don't come from people exactly. They seep from the walls, the cracks in the stone, the breeze between olive trees. They say one name again and again, soft but sure. Arachne, you're in a different town now. Somewhere further east. Smaller, hotter, the kind of place where sandals leave prints in the dust for days, and everyone knows everyone else's worst decisions. You blink in the morning light, which has that too bright shimmer that makes you question your life choices. And there, just beyond the main square, is the house everyone's whispering about. Arachne lives here, or maybe it's more accurate to say weaves here. Lives is too passive a word. She doesn't just sit and sew like some careful ant making socks for winter. No, Arachne attacks her loom. The wooden frame groans under her fingers. Thread leaps like lightning. Needles flick, faster than your eyes can follow. And somehow, at the end of it all, she creates entire scenes, stories, tapestries, so fine you'd swear they were painted with the breath of the gods. The locals? They're divided. Some stare at her window like pilgrims at a holy shrine. Others cross the street, whispering that it's unnatural, that no one should be that good. There's a rumor, just a rumor, that when she weaves, time slows down. Chickens stop squawking, babies stop crying, men stop pretending to know things. It's probably nonsense, but the loom creaks now, and even the wind seems to hush. You edge closer. Her workshop isn't grand. A single room, roof low, beams stained with old oil and the breath of too many summers. But the moment you step inside, it's like falling into another world. Colors bloom from every corner, reds like blood oranges, blues like winter water, golds like morning over the Aegean. And the sound. Oh, the sound. It's not just clacking and tapping. There's a rhythm like heartbeat and tide. Like some ancient music that never made it into notation. You wonder, just for a moment, if she's weaving that sound too. If the stories in her fabric don't just show scenes, but sing them. You spot her at the center, Arachne. She's younger than you expected. Maybe 16, maybe 17. But her expression is older than Olympus. Her brow is pinched and perfect. Concentration, her mouth slightly open. And her hands move like they're remembering something from a life before this one. Her hair is tied back loosely, curls escaping to stick to her cheeks in the heat. Her eyes don't flicker, not even when a drop of sweat rolls down her neck and lands right in the middle of her latest tapestry. She doesn't notice you, or anyone, but when a thread snaps, she frowns, not in anger, but in curiosity. As if the universe just whispered something unexpected, and she's considering whether to believe it. People say Arachne learned to weave from a goddess. Others say she never learned at all, that she came out of the womb demanding a loom and a pallet of dyed wool. A very dramatic old man at the tavern insists she once threaded a tapestry so thin it passed through the eye of a needle, sideways. Historians still argue about it. By the way, some say she was taught by Athena herself, which would make all of this incredibly awkward. Others think it's just legend, inflated by bored men who needed something to write about between wars. But you're standing here now, watching her bring entire myths to life with a flick of her wrist. And honestly, whatever the truth is, it doesn't matter, because this girl is terrifyingly good. You walk around the room. There's a tapestry pinned to the back wall, one she isn't working on anymore. It shows a procession of mortals, a wedding maybe? A priest raising a hand in blessing. The bride's eyes are shaded with blue thread, and you could swear they look worried, like she knows something's coming. Another one shows a lion curled in a field of lily, and the petals look so real you reach out to touch one, half expecting to feel pollen on your fingers. You don't. But for a moment, you hear bees. Just for a moment. Back outside, the townspeople are still talking. She must have sold her soul. Someone mutters, or maybe she's cursed. No mortal girl can weave like that, says a woman with needle-thin lips. It's unnatural. And that word again, the one mortals always reach for when they don't understand something. Unnatural. It's easier than saying the truth. That Arachne makes them uncomfortable because she's better. Not better for a girl. Not better for someone her age. Just better than them, than the myths. Than maybe even the gods. Word spreads. As it does. From Lydia to Corinth. From Corinth to Athens. The stories grow legs and sandals. Soon, people are traveling just to see her work. Some leave coins, some leave olive branches. One woman leaves a lock of her own hair, tied in black ribbon, and says nothing. You don't know what it means. But that night, Arachne weaves a woman standing on a cliff, arms raised to the stars. Her face looks familiar, and somewhere far away, Athena hears another whisper. She wove the gods, but not with reverence. She doesn't throw a lightning bolt. She doesn't descend immediately with trumpets and fury. No. Instead, she waits. Because this isn't war. Not yet. This is personal. The next morning, Arachne opens her door and finds a spool of golden thread she didn't leave there. It shines in the sun. She frowns, picks it up, and for the first time in days, her fingers hesitate. She doesn't know it, but she's already been marked. Back inside her workshop, you see it too. The air is different, thicker, like the moment before a thunderstorm when everything smells like wet stone and bad decisions. She starts weaving again, but this time, her shoulders are tighter, her jaw set, and for the first time, you notice her hands are trembling, just slightly, like the edge of a spider's web in wind. Outside, the crowd grows. Some come with questions, others with praise, but a few just come to watch. Not to admire, but to see what happens when someone flies too close to Olympus. You wonder which kind you are. But then, the wind shifts again, a hush falls. You turn, and across the square, an old woman is standing in the sun. She's hunched, leaning on a stick, hair wrapped in faded cloth. But her eyes, they burn like candle flames, and she's looking right at Arachne. The old woman doesn't say a word at first. She just stands there in the sunlight, watching Arachne as if she's inspecting a piece of fruit she's not sure is ripe. Her gaze is steady, unblinking. There's no awe in it, no reverence. Only something sharp and ancient, like a knife you forgot you owned until it shows up in your dreams. Arachne doesn't notice her right away. She's working again. Her shuttle flies. Her shoulders relax as if the golden thread, the one she found by her doorstep this morning, has tamed something inside her. But the old woman watches. She doesn't move. And you? You can't stop staring at her either. There's something off about her posture, something too still, too precise. Her hands are gnarled, but not shaky. Her back bent, but not weak. She leans on the stick, sure, but you get the strange sense that it's more for show than support. Then, finally, she steps forward. Inside the workshop, the light bends. It pools around the old woman like she's carrying her own son. You feel the hairs on your arms lift. Your breath slows. Arachne's shuttle stops mid-air. There's a moment, just a moment, where everything holds its breath. Then, in a voice like dry leaves brushing against stone, the old woman says, "You weave beautifully, child." Arachne turns, blinks, wipes her forehead with the back of her wrist. "Thank you," she says simply. The old woman's lips twitch, almost a smile, but not quite. "Where did you learn such skill?" Arachne shrugs. "Nowhere. I just weave." That answer hangs in the room like a spider web in sunlight, delicate, honest, and far too exposed that the old woman leans closer. "You've never had a teacher?" "No," Arachne says. She doesn't sound proud. "Just tired of the question. You've never studied under a goddess?" There's a flicker in the old woman's voice now, a needle tip, glinting beneath velvet. Arachne frowns. "I've heard the stories. That Athena taught me. That the fates stitched my fingers themselves. But they're not true." "Then what is true?" The old woman asks softly, and Arachne, "Oh, Arachne," she sighs and says, "that I'm better than her." There it is, the sentence, the one that snaps like a thread pulled too tight. You feel the entire workshop react. The beams seem to creak. The floor suddenly less steady. The tapestries on the wall ripple, not with wind, but something deeper. As if the stories they contain heard the challenge and are listening. The old woman straightens slowly, unnaturally slowly. Her eyes shimmer now, not with moisture, but with something golden, ancient, and furious. "You think yourself greater than the gods?" she whispers. Arachne squares her shoulders. "I don't think," she says. "I know." You don't realize you're holding your breath until it escapes in a slow, stunned exhale. Outside, a breeze rises. Dust lifts in lazy spirals, and the old woman, well, she begins to change. It's not dramatic. No lightning bolts. No explosion of feathers or fire. Just gravity falling away. The stoop of her back uncoils. Her hands unbend. Her robes smooth into elegant folds. The walking stick vanishes like smoke. And standing there now, in the center of the weaving room, is not an old woman, but a goddess. Athena. You don't need anyone to tell you. You feel it. The pressure in the room triples. Your heart thuds in your throat. Every strand of your being wants to kneel, to bow, to run, but Arachne stands still. Her eyes widen for half a breath, not with fear, but with recognition. And maybe, just maybe, a glint of satisfaction. Athena surveys the workshop. Her eyes scan every tapestry, every thread, every pattern that dares to exist without her blessing. Her face is unreadable, perfectly still. And then softly, "You have talent." It's not a compliment. It's a diagnosis. Like a physician naming a disease. "I've seen your lions," she continues. "Your weddings, your gods." A pause. "You are unafraid to depict their flaws." "I don't lie," Arachne replies. Athena's mouth twitches. "Just once. No, but you choose your truths carefully." There's a long silence. The kind that feels like it should be filled with prayers. And then Athena speaks again. Let's settle it then. You and me. The challenge doesn't echo. It lands like a heavy stone on silk. Arachne doesn't move. She doesn't need time to think. Fine, she says. That's all. You step back as they begin. There's no ceremony, no witnesses. Just two looms, side by side. Two women, one divine, one mortal. And more thread than the fates could ever untangle. Athena moves first. Her loom sings. You've never heard that before. Wood-making music. Her threads glow faintly, each one tugging at the memory of an age you weren't alive to see. She weaves Olympus, that not just Olympus the place, but Olympus the idea. Columns and clouds, the grandeur of power, the beauty of order, the inevitability of rule. And at the center, the gods, proud, triumphant, untouched. Then it's Arachne's turn. Her fingers blur. She weaves too, but her stories are different. You see Zeus disguised as a bull, abducting Europa. Poseidon chasing Demeter through a field. Apollo courting a nymph who turns herself into a tree to escape him. They are gods. Yes, but not noble. Not glorious. They're messy, lustful, petty, human. And the worst part? They are perfectly rendered. Every line, every curve, every expression. Too real to dismiss. Too true to ignore. The air in the workshop tightens. Not hot, not cold. Just thick. Your skin prickles. Athena watches the tapestry. Her face doesn't change, but her grip on the shuttle falters. Just for a second. No one speaks. Even the wind stays out of this. And when the final threads are tied, there's silence. Arachne breathes. Her hands are trembling now, but her chin stays high. You want to say something, anything, but you can't even swallow, because something's happening. Something deep. Athena steps back from her loom. Walks slowly to Arachne's. Looks, truly looks. And then, with a motion so fast you almost miss it, she raises her hand and tears Arachne's tapestry in half. No thunderclap, no scream. Just fabric splitting, and the sound is so quiet. It's worse than shouting. You flinch. Arachne does, end single quotes. She just watches the goddess destroy her work with that same expression. Not anger, not fear, just disappointment. And maybe sadness. And you realize, she didn't weave this to win. She wove it because it was true. Athena drops the scraps at Arachne's feet. She says nothing, but the silence is louder than any curse. And as you look at the torn masterpiece, you wonder, what happens to a mortal who makes a god feel small? You don't speak. No one does. Even the walls seem stunned, as if the act they just witnessed was too much for their ancient stones. The two halves of Arachne's tapestry lie on the floor like fallen wings, all color and silence, threads curling like spilled thoughts. Athena turns, slowly. Her robes whisper as they move. You expect fury, or triumph, or some divine lecture. Instead, there's something far more unsettling in her posture. Restraint. It's the kind of quiet that doesn't come from peace. It comes from effort. She's holding something back, and that you realize is so much worse. Arachne remains standing. Her face is unreadable now, carved into stillness. But her fingers twitch at her sides, like they're still weaving, even when nothing's left to make. Then, without raising her voice, Athena says, arrogance is not artistry. The words are meant to cut. They hang in the air like the final stroke of a sword that hasn't yet drawn blood. But Arachne doesn't flinch. Instead, she kneels not out of submission, but to gather the torn tapestry, carefully, reverently, as if even in pieces, the story deserves dignity. You asked for truth, Arachne says, her voice low. I wove it. Athena's jaw tightens. You wove blasphemy. No, Arachne replies. I wove reality. A long, heavy silence follows. You expect the sky to open, for thunder to roll in. Maybe a plague of weasels or something equally dramatic, but there's nothing, just Athena. Just Arachne and you, trapped between creation and punishment. Athena steps closer. Her shadow stretches over the scraps of thread, over Arachne's knees, over the floor that suddenly feels miles deeper than it is. You insulted the gods, she says. Arachne looks up. You're the ones who act insultingly. That's the moment. The moment everything changes. Athena blinks, not slowly, not in confusion, but as if something small and painful has entered her eye. Or maybe her pride, and for a second, just one, you see it. Something raw flickers through her divine facade. She knows Arachne is right. The gods aren't flawless. They've never been. They rage, they meddle, they seduce, they destroy. And Arachne didn't invent these stories. She just had the nerve to retell them, in public, with skill. Beauty, with honesty, and worse. She did it better than the goddess of wisdom herself. You feel it before you see it. A shift in the room. The threads in the walls seem to ripple. The breeze changes direction. The air takes on the strange charge of storm clouds building over still seas. And then Athena raises her hand. This time, not to destroy, but to curse. Her voice isn't loud. It doesn't need to be. You think yourself above gods, mortal, she says. You would compare yourself to me, and not just in talent, but in audacity. She moves her fingers through the air, as if threading something invisible. Then, you shall weave forever. The curse lands like silk, soft at first, barely felt. Arachne gasps, but it's not pain. Not yet. She clutches her chest, and then her arms. Something's changing. Her spine arches. Her hands splay wide. Her skin tightens, hardens, shimmers. You stagger back, heart hammering. Not because of what's happening, but because of how quiet it is. There's no screaming, no wailing thunder, just the slow, creeping unraveling of a girl's body into something ancient. Her arms thin. Her fingers multiply. Her eyes widen, turn glossy, too dark, too many. Her legs gone. Her back bent. Her form smaller, stranger, lighter, until finally, before you, is no longer Arachne, but a spider, small, still, trembling, she scuttles away, dazed into the shadows of the loom, you want to follow. To say something, anything, but you're frozen. Athena stands over the place where Arachne once knelt. Her eyes are unreadable again, her hands clasped. Her voice, distant now. She left me no choice. You don't answer. Because maybe she did. Or maybe the truth was just too heavy to carry. Time passes, though you don't feel it. You find yourself outside somehow. The sky is grayer now. The olive trees whisper. The world feels quieter. A small web glistens between two branches. Stare at it, it's perfect. The silk stretches and spirals, catching the light with that same shimmer you saw in Arachne's golden threads. It moves gently in the wind, not trembling, not weak, just dancing. You think, she's still weaving. Maybe she always will be. Later, by the fireside, a woman tells a story. Once, she begins, there was a girl so skilled, even the gods feared her. She challenged a goddess? Someone asks. No, the woman says. She didn't need to. Her hands were enough. They nod. No one questions it, because even now, even centuries later, no one forgets Arachne. They just pretend they do. Lie down in the grass. The web above you sways. The stars return, and for the first time in a long while, you feel that strange comfort of truth, that even if gods don't like it, stories remember. They always remember. You wake up beneath a canopy of whispering leaves, somewhere between dream and memory. The sun is just a pale blur behind morning mist, and everything smells like dew and pine and something faintly metallic, like old coins rubbed smooth by time. Above you, branches stretch like fingers, cradling a web spun overnight. It glistens flawless, its spiral glowing silver in the fog. You recognize it immediately, not because of shape or size, but because it carries that same eerie precision, that quiet confidence, as if it were signed without ink. She's still weaving. And as your eyes follow the threads, something tugs at your chest. Not sadness exactly, but a kind of awe that aches. Arachne isn't gone. She's everywhere. The forest unfolds as you walk, drowsy and barefoot. You're not sure how you got here, but the air is soft, the silence tender, no birdsong. Just the rustle of branches and the gentle creak of old bark. And then you see it. The first loom dot. It's ancient, built from twisted trees and strung with strands so fine they could be missed. It sits in a grove untouched by time, draped in shadows. You step closer, and the patterns become clear, woven images. Of women, dozens, maybe hundreds. Some smiling, some not. Some crowned, some barefoot, some carrying babies or blades or books. They're not myths, they're forgotten. This is her forest. Now Arachne, single quotes S. And she hasn't just been weaving webs, she's been weaving memory. You walk past another loom, this one suspended between two bent oaks. The tapestry shows a marketplace, not from legend, but from life. Bakers, children, two women sharing a joke. And in the corner, barely visible, a girl at a loom, eyes fierce. You wonder, is it Arachne? Or is it someone else who dared to be good at something in a world that only applauds quietly? Further in, the forest thickens. The ground softens underfoot. Moss grows over half-spun webs like ivy over ancient scrolls. You pass a stump where an enormous spider sits, unmoving, as if in meditation. It watches you. Not with menace, but with understanding. You nod. It doesn't respond. But somehow you feel seen. And maybe that's all you needed. A thought drifts through you like mist. What if this is her revenge? Not curses, not lightning, but remembering. What if every time someone told a story differently, every time someone whispered a truth beneath the loud tales of gods and glory, a thread was added here? In this forest, on this loom, by her, you walk slower now, more carefully. The air feels sacred, but not in the temple kind of way. Sacred like a diary left open, like a song you weren't meant to hear but can't forget. The stories here are quiet, intimate, sharp in their honesty. And they're not about gods. They're about people. You find a web low to the ground, almost invisible. Its threads shimmer green and gold. The pattern? A girl and her mother in a small house, weaving. Together. Nothing dramatic. No divine punishment. Just love and work. And skill passed hand to hand. You kneel beside it and feel the sting of tears you didn't expect. Because something about this scene feels more important than all the marble temples. You've seen, somewhere above you, a spider drops down on a single line of silk. She hangs there, swaying slightly in the breeze, then climbs back up, vanishing into the canopy. You get the message. She's watching, not to frighten you, to witness you. There's an old saying in Delphi, the gods write in thunder, but truth threads her words in silence. You're starting to think that wasn't a metaphor, because here, in the forest of webs, there are no hymns, no festivals, no temples built in gold, and yet, it feels more sacred than Olympus ever did. You hear the wind say her name again. Arachne. Not shouted. Not feared. Acknowledged. Eventually, you reach the heart of the forest. It's a wide clearing where moonlight lingers even in daylight. Dozens of webs cross over one another, suspended like bridges, hammocks, cradles. And in the center, a single impossible tapestry. It's huge. It stretches across the trees like the sky itself. And woven into it, everything. You see gods and mortals, wars and weddings, laughter and loss. There's Athena, yes, but also Helen, Andromeda, Penelope, Medea, Mortal women whose names were footnotes now stitched into legend. Not as accessories, but as authors. The tapestry moves slightly in the wind, revealing new scenes as if it breathes. It doesn't tell one story. It tells all the ones we forgot to ask for. You lie down on the soft earth beneath it, watching the patterns shift above. Somewhere, high up in the webbing, a spider weaves on, endlessly, tirelessly. Maybe it's her, maybe it's hundreds of her. Or maybe her hands live in others now, in anyone who threads truth into pattern, who tells stories no one asked to hear but needed to. You smile, because now you know she never stopped weaving. Let your eyes close. Let the sound of shifting silk lull you. Let the forest carry your breath. And just before sleep pulls you away, you whisper to no one, she wove the world. And from above, on a breeze that smells faintly of dust and ink and hope, a thread falls. You catch it and hold it close. You wake up warm, wrapped in silence so complete it feels like velvet. No birds, no wind, just breath and heartbeat, slow and steady. The forest is still here, yes, but softer now. The colors muted, as if time decided to exhale and let things fade a little. You're still lying beneath the great tapestry, but something's changed. There's a shimmer on the air, like heat rising from stone, but cool, like silver smoke. You sit up and notice a path ahead that wasn't there before. Not worn into the ground, but floating, a winding line of thread, barely visible, glinting with strands of silver, copper, and a green so pale it's almost not a color at all. It hums. Yes, hums, not loud, not musical, but persistent. Soft vibration that whispers without words, like someone is thinking very hard and the thoughts are leaking through the fabric of reality. Naturally, you follow. The thread leads you deeper into the trees, into a place where even light seems cautious. Leaves muffle your footsteps. The world narrows to your breath and the faint buzz of the line in front of you. You touch it once, gently, and feel warmth pulse back. Not hot, not electric, just alive. Eventually, the trees thin, and you step into a clearing so still. You're sure you've stumbled into someone else's dream. At the center of the clearing stands a loom, but not like any you've seen. It isn't wood or metal or bone. It's made entirely of thread, tension spun into form, structure built out of silence and air and memory. It floats slightly above the ground, turning slowly, as if listening for something. This is the whisper loom. You don't need anyone to tell you that. You know, you feel it in your chest, in your teeth, in that space behind your ears where emotions go, when they don't want to be named. You approach it slowly. The loom turns to face you. Yes, face. It doesn't have eyes or a mouth, but it sees you. The way a mirror does. The way silence does. You reach out. And the moment your fingers touch the first thread, you hear everything. It's not sound exactly. It's story. Thousands of voices layered, folded, threaded together, but none loud. All of them quiet, whispers, dreams, regrets, names that never made it into statues or scrolls. You hear a mother telling her daughter not to dim her light. You hear a servant girl memorizing a poem by candlelight and whispering it into her sleeve. Hear the weaver who never got a loom, the artist who never signed her work, the girl who drew stories in the sand before the tide came in. They're all here, woven into this loom. And somewhere, beneath them all, steady and strong, you hear her. Arachne. She doesn't speak in sentences. Not now, but you know her presence. Like thread between your fingers, she's not angry, not bitter. She's something far more difficult to describe. Steady, still weaving, still gathering, still threading truth where silence once ruled. You place your palm flat against the loom. It hums back. And in that moment, you understand. This isn't a monument to her. It's her gift. Arachne didn't just keep weaving. After her curse, she created a place where all the forgotten stories could be told. Where no goddess could silence them. You take a breath. And the loom answers. A strand unspools, wrapping around your wrist, weightless but present. It doesn't bind, it connects. It lingers for a moment, then lifts away. And suddenly, you remember a story that was never yours but lives in you now. A girl who learned to spin flax from her grandmother. She wasn't famous. She wasn't blessed, but she made a tapestry that hung in the market until the day she died. And even now, people remember it. They just don't know her name. Until now. Because it's in the loom. You smile. Behind you, the forest shifts. You turn and realize you're no longer alone. They've come. Hundreds, no, thousands of silhouettes, quiet figures wrapped in woven cloaks, in faded tunics, in robes patched with embroidery. Some are old, some are young. Some shimmer faintly, as if made of thread themselves. They're not ghosts. They're remembered. The whisper loom remembers them. And now, so do you. One figure steps forward. Her hair is long. Her eyes dark. Her arms bare and strong. She says nothing, but you know who she is. Her fingers move through the air as if weaving, and a new thread drifts toward the loom, joining the pattern. A scene begins to form. You, standing in the forest, one hand outstretched, listening. You are part of the weave now. And then, gently, like a breeze brushing your cheek, the forest begins to fade, not vanish, just soften, dim. The figures recede into the shadows. The loom turns slowly away. You're not being dismissed. You've been heard. And now, you carry the thread forward. As you step away, the forest exhales around you. Light returns. The sounds of the world return. Wind in the leaves, insects singing, birds reclaiming the air. You emerge from the trees and glance back once, half expecting the loom to be gone. But it isn't. It never was. You just needed to listen. And now? Now the story is in your hands. What you do with it, how you speak it, whose names you weave next. That's up to you. But somewhere, in a forest stitched between myth and memory, a loom waits. And if you ever need it again, just follow the thread. You return to the world slowly, like a diver rising from deep water. The trees are thinner now, and light filters through in speckled, lazy patches, golden, warm, and absolutely normal. Too normal. After the whispering forest, the world feels loud again. The kind of loud where people talk just to fill space, where silence is treated like a threat, where stories are polished until they shine like brass and lose all their splinters. You walk a dirt road with no name. It leads past olive groves and broken columns, past wild thyme and fig trees that bear more fruit than anyone needs. Somewhere ahead, you see a city, wide, sun-soaked, and proud. One of those cities, white-stoned, echoing with debate and ego. You've arrived in Athens. Again. But this time, you're not here for temples or prayers. You're here to remember what they forgot. Athens pretends to be eternal. It preens under the sun, as if its shadows were never long and cruel. The marble glows. Statues line the avenues, gods with perfect posture, generals mid-victory, muses with impossible cheekbones. All of them frozen in triumph. But you know what they're not showing. You've seen the other side now, the tapestries behind the tapestries, and suddenly, this whole place feels like a stage play without the messy parts. You make your way through the Agra, the bustling market, where merchants shout prices, philosophers argue about justice, and someone is selling olives that taste exactly like disappointment. It's busy, loud, present, but beneath it all, you feel a tug. Like a thread pulling at your sleeve. So you follow it. Down a narrow alley between two bathhouses, past the back door of a bakery where a girl hums while brushing ash from her apron, through a gate with no sign, and into a courtyard made of quiet and dust. This is where they keep the things that don't fit the narrative. A crumbling wall stands at the center, half covered in ivy. There's no inscription, no column, just a niche barely wide enough for a clay urn, or maybe a hidden shrine. You step closer, and your foot brushes something. A fragment dot worn, flat, faint traces of red dye still cling to the fibers. You kneel, heart stuttering dot, it's a piece of tapestry, dot old dot familiar dot. Not because of the pattern, but because of the threadwork. It's hers. Arachne's. You'd know it anywhere. You brush away dust. The colors bloom like bruises. A single, partial image remains. A woman standing with her hand outstretched. A goddess? A mortal? Hard to say. The lines between them are so thin now. As you sit there, touching the fray of forgotten stories, you hear voices approaching. Two men. Scholars, probably. Their sandals are too clean. They stop near the gate. One says, "This must have been a minor altar. No records of who it was dedicated to." The other shrugs. "Doesn't matter. If she were important, we'd have her name." You don't look up, because you know her name. And so does the forest. And so does the loom. And somewhere deep down, so do they. They've just chosen to forget. The gods, they remember the victories, the hymns, the worship. But what they forgot was quieter, smaller, more enduring. They forgot the women who told truth when it was inconvenient, the hands that stitched history without permission, the names that were scrubbed away, not because they weren't worthy, but because they were too worthy. Too clear, too sharp, like thread that cuts if you pull it too fast. You leave the courtyard and walk through the city like a ghost in reverse. Not haunting, but remembering. You see echoes of her everywhere now. A young boy sketching in the dust, while his father talks over him. An old woman fixing a broken sandal with thread and patience. Shopkeepers spinning stories to customers, just to make the day pass softer. They are all weavers, and none of them are in the statues. You climb the hill to the Acropolis in the afternoon heat, sandals sliding over smooth stone. Tourists haven't been invented yet, but you feel the weight of footsteps from 1,000 futures anyway. At the top, the Parthenon stands, gleaming, enormous, arrogant. Dedicated to Athena, of course. She's everywhere here, her name etched into walls, her face stamped into coins. Her myths sanitized and retold until they sparkle, like broken glass. But you've seen behind the story now, and that changes everything. You sit beneath a pillar and pull a thread from your sleeve. It's the one the whisper loom gave you, still intact, still humming faintly. You loop it once around your finger, then again. And again. A girl nearby is watching you, maybe 12. Her dress is plain, her eyes too big for her face. She tilts her head. "What is that?" she asks. "A story," you reply. "Who's it about?" You think for a moment, then smile. Someone they tried to forget. She smiles back, and suddenly, the thread feels heavier in your hand, but in a good way. Like weight added to a voice that was once too thin to hear. Later that evening, back in your small rented room above a fig seller's stall, you light a lamp and place the thread beside your bed. You lie down, eyes open, and as the oil flickers, you think about the gods again. You think about what they forgot. Not power, not praise. They have those. What they forgot was fear, not of war. Of truth. And maybe that's why they feared Arachne, because she didn't just tell stories. She told the right ones. You close your eyes. The world outside grows dim. And in the quiet, something shifts beneath your thoughts, like a web catching moonlight. You smile, because even here, in the heart of the city built for gods, you know who the real weavers are. You wake to the soft clatter of hooves on cobblestones, the scent of fig leaves crushed underfoot, and the distant mutter of the sea stretching its spine beyond the city walls. The light leaking through your window is golden and slow, the kind that doesn't rush you, the kind that feels like an old friend pressing a cup of warm water into your hands. Athens is stirring again, and beneath it, so are the threads. You wrap your borrowed shawl around your shoulders, tuck the silver thread into the fold where it rests like a talisman. and step out into the world. Today, you go beneath it. The Acropolis, when viewed from below, doesn't look triumphant. It looks heavy. All that marble, all that pride, pressing down on layers of time. No one talks about anymore. There's a rumor in the city, one you've overheard from kitchen boys, old scholars, and drunk poets with more scars than teeth. They whisper about tunnels, chambers, forgotten workshops sealed beneath the hill, built before Athena ever claimed the space. Before gods were gods, before stories were edited. They say the ground remembers what the sky tries to rewrite. So you go looking. There's a broken section of wall near the back of the Acropolis, unguarded, cracked from centuries of neglect and a few strategically placed goat herds. You slip through at dusk, feet silent, breath shallow. The city behind you fades into oranges and purples, the sun bleeding itself dry like a slow myth no one's bothering to retell. Inside, it's colder, quieter. Dust coats everything. You follow the winding corridor, deeper and deeper, until stone gives way to earth and earth gives way to fabric. Not just scraps or shreds, but whole sheets, curtains of thread draped along the walls like ancient skin. They shimmer faintly in the dark, reflecting light that shouldn't exist. You brush your fingers against one. It sighs. Yes, sighs. Like a breath released after centuries of holding still. You're in a chamber now, not large, but infinite and feeling. At the center stands a loom, cruder than the whisper loom, older, hung with half-finished work, colors dulled with time but still alive. You kneel beside it, careful not to disturb the dust too much, and look closer. The tapestry here isn't about gods. It's about us. People. Women, mostly. Their hands, their homes, their labor. A mother weaving while nursing a baby. A teenage girl watching her grandmother dye yarn. A market vendor stitching a tear in her apron between sales. These aren't myths, they're moments. Unrecorded. Uncelebrated. But utterly real. And then you see it. In the bottom corner of the tapestry, a signature. Stitched so small it's nearly invisible. Not a name. A symbol. A spider. You smile. Not because it's clever, but because it means she was here. Arachne. Or one of her echoes. Her disciples. Her shadows. Her sisters. The ceiling above you groans. A slow warning that time doesn't like being ignored. Dust trickles down, but you don't leave just yet. You crouch beside the loom and do something simple. You tie your thread, the silver one from the forest, onto the corner of the tapestry. A small knot. It's not dramatic, but it means you were here too. And now you're part of the pattern. There's a rustle behind you, not danger. Just presence. You turn and see her. A woman. She wears no crown, no armor. Her robes are patched, her feet bare, but her eyes are full of thread. Not literally, of course, but the kind of gaze that remembers everything, as if she's watched empires unravel and just raised an eyebrow. She nods. Once, you don't need her name. She doesn't need yours. But she walks to the loom, touches the knot you tied, and smiles. Then, with a whisper, she disappears. You leave the chamber slower than you came. The air behind you thickens, the path begins to close. You don't mind. That place wasn't meant to stay open forever, just long enough for someone to carry its memory forward. Back in the city, the world is loud again. Horses, merchants, laughter, grief. The usual, but you're different now, because you know what's under it all. Not just stone, not just secrets, but thread. Running through the city like veins beneath skin. Through kitchens, temples, fields, and beds. Through lives lived quietly. Through stories never told. Through truths gods tried to bury, and now that thread is in you. Pause outside a shop. In the window, a small loom, decorative, a toy, maybe, or maybe not. Maybe it's an echo, placed there by a girl whose grandmother whispered the story once. Maybe she doesn't even know who Arachne was. only that she feels good when her hands move in rhythm with thread and light. You step inside and buy it. You don't need it, but you'll carry it, because some threads deserve to be visible. That night, as you sit by your window with the toy loom in your lap, you watch the stars. They shimmer faintly, beautiful, but even they seem jealous of the web of memory now strung beneath them. You think of Athena, of her temples, of her rage, and you think, maybe gods built their legacies from marble, but the people? They built the truth from thread. You don't mean to dream, but the thread pulls you back, not to the forest, not to the chamber beneath the temple, but somewhere in between, a liminal space, soft as wool and dark as dye, where time doesn't pass so much as gathers. The world here is quiet, not because nothing is happening, but because everything is happening slowly, thoughtfully, as if even the shadows are being stitched in the right order. You're standing in a room made entirely of fabric. The walls ripple like sails, and the floor beneath your feet is warm and textured, woven from thousands of overlapping stories. Each footstep sounds like a page turning. Each breath unravels a little more of the silence. In the center of the room, you find another loom. Of course, but this one isn't ancient. It's modern, not sleek or sterile, but new. Raw wood, fresh thread, tools scattered around in organized chaos, notes pinned with ivory needles. Someone's been here recently. And then you realize, this loom doesn't belong to the past. It belongs to now. You reach out and run your fingers along the frame. The grain is smooth. The warp is taut. A tapestry is already forming on it. Incomplete, wild with color, messy in places but bold. You recognize some of it. There's Arachne. Yes, in mid-motion, her fingers dancing. But there are others too. A girl with a laptop and earbuds in, scribbling poems during study hall. A seamstress, sewing protest slogans into a wedding dress. A little boy weaving beads into a bracelet, while his older sister teaches him the difference between tradition and control. These aren't myths. They're modern. They're alive, and they're all connected by thread. You sit before the loom, and it responds. Not by moving, but by waiting. The kind of waiting that says, I've been here. I'm ready when you are. You pull the thread from your wrist, the one from the forest, the chamber, the silent loom, and hold it up. Immediately, a ripple passes through the tapestry. It makes space for you. You breathe in and start to weave. Don't need training, your hands remember. The motion is instinct, like scratching an itch or tying your hair. And with every pass, the thread responds, shaping moments you didn't realize had lived inside you all along. A teacher who stayed after class to listen. An old woman who taught you how to mend socks, not because they mattered, but because you did. The ache of watching someone be erased in a room full of people pretending not to notice. You weave them all in, and the tapestry changes, not becomes better, just becomes truer. You step back and look at your part. It's small, a corner, maybe less, but it shimmers. And around it, other threads pulse softly, echoing your colors, your patterns. Someone else is woven next to you. Not just Arachne, but many. You recognize styles now. Messy stitches from a teenage rebel. Perfect. Tiny loops from a quiet perfectionist. Jagged shapes from someone who wove through grief. The loom holds all of it. No edits. No hierarchy, just truth. You hear a sound, not from the tapestry, but within it. Faint. Familiar. Laughter. Someone snorts mid-joke. Another sighs in disbelief. A whisper of encouragement echoes through your bones. You listen closer and realize, these are voices of people who never got to speak in the original myths. The girls who weren't rescued. The wives who didn't wait. The mothers who did more than mourn. They've been here all along. Their echoes are part of the pattern. You glance toward the edge of the tapestry and see movement. A new thread enters, slowly, hesitantly. You lean in and spot a face-forming. It's Not as you are, exactly, but as this place sees you, someone who listened, who stepped beyond marble and into silence, who chose to remember. You didn't rewrite history. You threaded it back together. In the loom. Noticed. You take one final stitch. Then step away. The tapestry doesn't shimmer, or sing, or explode into celestial light. It just continues, gently, without you needing to touch it anymore. You understand now, this loom, this echo, isn't here to be finished. It's here to keep going. Every voice, every thread, every truth added makes it stronger. And even when forgotten, the threads remember. Always. Feel yourself being pulled back, not against your will, just redirected. The fabric around you grows dim, the walls ripple once, and the tapestry folds inward like a closing eye. You wake. The sun is rising outside your window. Birds are screaming again. A cart rattles down the street with the elegance of a broken drum. You blink at the ceiling and smile. The world is loud again, but underneath it, underneath everything, you can still feel the thread. Not heavy, but there. Warm as breath, sharp as memory. Soft as truth. You rise, stretch, and for a moment, just a moment, you feel the loom behind your ribs. A quiet pull toward weaving, not with your hands, but with your choices. And as the day begins, you carry the pattern forward, not as a myth, but as a reminder. Every thread tells a story, even yours. Especially yours. You've been feeling it all day, that subtle weight in the air, like the pause before thunder, like a breath held too long. The world hasn't changed, but your senses have. You see tension in the shadows now, questions stitched into the key. Scenes of ordinary life. You walk through Athens with the softest thread still coiled around your wrist, and everyone treats you as if you're just another passerby. They don't know what you've seen, but the gods do. And now, they're watching. You first notice it at the olive vendor's stall. The air stiffens. The old man blinks at you too slowly, as if resetting. Then the birds stop mid-chirp. Then a breeze that should move doesn't. Time tilts. And then, like wine darkening water, the crowd shifts. Not disappears, just changes. Faces blur, movements echo. And standing at the end of the street is a woman in armor, gleaming and still. Athena. Of course. She doesn't approach. Not yet. She waits. As if you should make the first move. You step toward her, each footfall landing too. Softly, like walking on dreams. Her face is unreadable, a statue with breath. But her eyes? They burn with something between curiosity and warning. You carry her thread, she says. You nod. No point denying it. You walked in the forest. Yes, you touch the whisper loom. You lift your hand. The faint shimmer of silver thread catches the light. She watches you with that unblinking god stare, a stare that once flattened armies, shattered pride, and remade history. But this time, it holds a question. Why? You, the gods don't test with riddles. They test with doubt, and now it begins. Athena gestures. The city dissolves, not violently, not like a wall falling, but like parchment slowly burning at the edges. And suddenly, you're no longer in Athens. You're in a room. Empty. Cold. Lit by an unseen source that casts no shadow. At the center is a table. On it, 3 items: a golden scroll, a spool of black thread, a cracked mirror. You know what this is. A test, but not of strength. Not of logic. Of story. Athena's voice fills the space, but she is nowhere visible. Choose the one that will carry the truth forward. You approach the table, careful. The golden scroll is flawless. It glows. You sense it contains the official version, the one told in temples, sung by priests, carved in stone. Neat, controlled, impressive. But sterile. You touch it and feel distance, like someone else's life written in third person. You move to the black thread. Its coarse, worn, frayed at one end. It hums low, like a tired heart still beating. When you lift it, you feel memory, unfinished, unpolished, but real. Then the mirror, cracked into 9 pieces, you see yourself fractured. In each shard, a different version, the child who believed. In heroes, the skeptic, the dreamer, the weaver. All true, all incomplete. You understand now. This test isn't about what you choose. It's about why you pick up the black thread. Not because it's the easiest, but because it remembers. Because it carries voices that were never invited to the table. Because it needs to be carried. The room doesn't applaud. It simply shifts. And now you're standing on a cliff above the sea. Athena appears beside you, whole now, not just a voice. She gazes out over the water, arms crossed, silent. You wait. She finally speaks. She refused to flatter us. You nod. She told the truth, you say, and was punished. You don't speak this time, because she already knows the answer. Athena turns to you. Her expression is unreadable. That same divine neutrality that hides shame as easily as pride. You want to ask her something childish and ancient and raw. Why did you punish her? You don't say it aloud, but she hears it. Anyway, of course she does. She's not just a goddess of wisdom, but of war. And war is often just punishment with better PR. There's a flicker in her gaze. A hairline crack in the calm. She humiliated me, Athena says, her voice low. In front of mortals, in front of myself. You meet her eyes. You don't flinch. She told the truth, you whisper. For a second, you think she might strike you. But no, she only looks past you now, towards something neither of you can quite name. A memory? A regret? She left me no choice, Athena adds. But it's softer now. Less certain. You don't agree, but you also don't argue, because the truth is already woven. It doesn't need repeating. It just needs witnessing. She considers you for a long moment, then steps back and bows her head, just slightly. Not approval, not forgiveness, but acknowledgement. A crack in the marble. You blink, and suddenly you're back in the street. The olives glisten again. The breeze returns. The crowd moves as before, but your hand is warm. The black thread is tighter around your wrist now. Not binding, anchoring. The gods tested you. And instead of choosing a golden scroll or a perfect mirror, you chose the thread. The one Arachne left behind. That night, as you sit by your lamp, you begin to write. Not history. Story. Not clean. Not perfect. But threaded with truth. And as your fingers move, you feel it, somewhere far off or maybe very near. The whisper loom stirs, and a new thread joins the pattern. That night, long after the lamp is out and the street grows quiet, you lie in bed tracing the edge of the black thread. Between your fingers, you wonder how many others chose it before you. You wonder who will choose it after. Don't have answers, but you sleep well. Anyway, because this time you earned the story, not by winning, but by listening. The morning sun slides across the floor like it's trying not to wake you. The air tastes clean, like stone warmed overnight, dusted with a hint of fresh bread from somewhere below. You blink slowly, still wrapped in that warm, half-conscious state where dreams cling to the edge of your skin. Dreams threaded with strange runes, glowing looms, the faint tug of divine attention. You roll onto your side and stare at the ceiling. A tiny crack runs across it, like a thread pulled too tight. The gods are quieter today, but that doesn't mean they're gone. You stretch, your fingers grazing the black thread still tied around your wrist. It's not as shiny as it was. Not as mystical, just familiar, like the way an old song feels in your mouth even after years. It doesn't burn. It doesn't pulse. It just waits, like it trusts you now. Or maybe it's daring you to take the next step. You rise without deciding to. Your feet find the floor, cool and real. Outside, the city hums to itself. Carts rumble over uneven stones. Pigeons argue on rooftops. A distant flute stumbles into tune. You don't know exactly where you're going, but your hands feel certain. You take the long way, through back alleys and shaded colonnades. The thread pulls gently, not like a leash, but more like a memory you're trying to recall. A smell you almost recognize. You pass a vendor stacking pomegranates and think of Persephone. You pass a cracked statue and think, unbidden, not all marble deserves to last. Eventually, the path leads you to a building so ordinary, your eyes almost skip over it. No columns, no offerings at the door. Just a lintel, worn smooth with time. But carved into its wood, nearly invisible in the morning glare, is a mark, a broken web, not shattered, just interrupted. You hesitate at the door, not from fear, not anymore, but from a strange reverence. The kind you might feel opening a diary that doesn't belong to you, or holding someone's old shirt and catching the ghost of their scent. You knock, and the door sighs open on its own. Of course it does. Inside, the air is thick with the scent of wool, dust, ink, and old lemon oil, like a tailor's workshop blended with a forgotten library. The walls are draped with cloth, not for decoration, but for insulation, against sound, against intrusion, maybe even against history. It's quieter here than anywhere you've been, but not dead. This silence breathes. Your eyes adjust. Several figures move around the room, all focused, weaving, or sorting thread or adjusting looms of varying shapes. No one looks up. There's no ceremony, no introductions, and yet you feel like they've been expecting you. Or rather, expecting someone like you. One of them, a woman with a silver streak in her tightly braided hair, lifts her head and studies you. Her eyes are the kind that have seen too much to be surprised. "You're late," she says. No judgment, just fact. "I didn't know I was coming," you reply softly. She shrugs, already returning to her work. The thread new. Another weaver, a man with hands stained blue from indigo, chuckles without looking up. You take a few tentative steps inside. Every loom tells a story, but none are the ones you've seen in temples. These are not celebrations of heroism or glory. They're not clean or symmetrical or reverent. They're raw. Some chaotic, some tender. All true. You stop in front of one particularly strange tapestry. It shows Helen of Troy, not as a jewel to be stolen, but as a woman mid-scream, hurling a wine cup across a banquet table. Around her, men are frozen mid-boast, too self-absorbed to notice. You almost laugh, almost cry. Another piece shows Penelope, not waiting patiently at her loom, but yanking at the threads with fury, her hair loose, her eyes red from nights spent. Unweaving not just cloth, but expectation. There's a broken crown stitched into the corner, a line of tiny sandals walking away from it. Someone whispers behind you. We don't repair the myths, we unravel them. You turn. A girl, no older than 16, maybe younger, is watching you with sharp, curious eyes. Why? You ask. Because the loom lies, she says, then grins. And we're nosy. You both smile. Then she returns to her work, humming softly under her breath. The tune is off-key, but stubborn. You sit finally at an empty loom. The wood is smooth but scarred, not from neglect, but from use. Dozens of hands have sat here. You rest your fingers on the faiga frame and feel the faintest vibration, like memory alive under skin. A basket of threads waits beside you, some bright, some dull, some tangled beyond hope. No one tells you what to weave. No one asks who you are. They simply let you begin. You start slowly. Not with Arachne. You've told her story. She's earned her rest. You start with the girl who found a spider on her windowsill and whispered, "I see you." You thread in the whispers of women sharing forbidden stories while grinding flour. You add the hush of a child who dreams in patterns, but can't speak out loud yet. And, delicately, you stitch in the moment you first realized silence was not Safety, but a kind of forgetting. The tapestry forms without permission, and you let it. Time passes gently, like a cat settling into a patch of sun. Occasionally, someone walks past your loom, pauses, says nothing, and keeps moving, but you can feel their approval in the way they leave you space, in the way they don't explain. By nightfall, you've filled a corner of the cloth. Not much, but enough. And when you sit back, your bones ache like you've been holding someone else's sorrow too long. You look around the room again and realize everyone here has. One of the elders comes to sit beside you. His beard is knotted, with little scraps of ribbon, an archive of color and stubbornness. He doesn't speak at first, just watches your work. Then quietly, she saw the loom for what it was. You know who he means, Arachne, you say. He nods. But she wasn't the first, and she won't be the last. You glance at your tapestry. It doesn't feel like enough. It never does, he says, rubbing his hands together. But thread by thread, the pattern breaks. He doesn't smile, but he does believe. And somehow, that's better. They offer you a cot. You lie on stiff linen under a ceiling stained with candle soot. Outside, the city murmurs in its sleep. But inside this house, the house without a name, the house of pattern breakers, it is still. You listen to the silence, and in that silence, you hear something beautiful. Not the absence of sound, but the presence of space. Space to remember, to retell, to remake. And as you close your eyes, the black thread around your wrist warms ever so slightly. Not demanding, just reminding. You wake to warmth before light, the kind of warmth that sinks into your skin slowly, like rising bread or sunlight through thick curtains. Your eyes stay closed longer than usual, not because you're tired, but because the moment is soft, protected. Like you're swaddled in something more than just a blanket. You stretch, a long, quiet movement. Bones creak politely. The cot groans in reply. The black thread is still around your wrist. You almost expect it to be gone, but no. It's tighter. Today, warmer too. Not painful. Not yet. But there's a hum to it now. A buzz in the quiet. Like it knows what's coming. The house is quieter than yesterday, but not empty. You pass the workshop and see a few weavers at their looms. Heads bent low, breath steady, threads moving like whispers. You don't interrupt. They're doing something holy. You just don't know if it's weaving or undoing. You find a kettle near the back hearth, still warm. Someone left honey and lemon beside it. The tea is strong, herbal, bitter in a good way, like some truths. The room smells of wool and smoke and memory. You sip slowly, cradling the cup like it might answer questions you haven't asked yet. Then, you feel it, that shift, like the air just turned to glass. Your hand burns. Not fire, not pain. Just pressure, heat. Like being held too tight by something unseen. You look down. The black thread is glowing faintly, like ember under skin. You blink, and suddenly, you're not in the weaver's house anymore. You're in a room. Again. No walls this time. Just fog and floor and a ceiling of nothing. At your feet, a single tapestry. It's incomplete. Its edge is frayed. And woven into it, imperfectly, urgently, is a face. Your face, or close enough to it to make your heart hesitate. A figure stands. At the far end. Back turned. She's tall, thin, draped in loose fabric that catches light like water. You know who it is before she speaks, but you still whisper her name, Arachne. She doesn't turn. Not yet, but you can feel her recognition. Like static before lightning. You've carried the thread, she says, her voice lower than you. Imagined, not fragile, not broken, just exhausted. Yes. You've walked the rooms. You nod. You've seen the lies. Yes. She finally turns. Her eyes are not cruel, just ancient. You think of cracked pottery, of statues left in the rain. You think this story ends with justice, she says. You want to say no, but you're not sure anymore. She raises her hand and the tapestry lifts off the floor. hovering between you both. Look, she says. So you do. You see Helen again, but this time, aged, alone, her hands reaching for children who aren't there. You see Penelope unraveling, not cloth now, but herself. One memory at a time, you see Icarus. Again and again and again, burning, erased. You see Arachne, not as a weaver, but as a girl, a young girl with calloused fingers and eyes that sparkle with unbearable clarity. You see what happened after the gods were done with her, and you see that no one told that part. I told the truth. Arachne says quietly, I know. I wasn't punished for the weaving. You look at her. She meets your eyes. I was punished because they couldn't unsee it. And now you understand. It's not just the pattern that burns. It's the truth woven into it. Truth that refuses to stay quiet. Truth that makes the gods nervous. Truth that makes people remember, even when they're told to forget. She steps closer, holds out her hand. You've been chosen. You hesitate. Chosen for what? To carry the burning. You want to ask what that means, but your skin already knows. The thread around your wrist tightens. It sinks into your skin. Not just worn now, merged. You feel heat. Pressure, something not quite pain but not gentle either. Like memory forcing its way through muscle. You gasp. She doesn't flinch. Once it touches your blood, Arachne says, you don't tell stories anymore. You wait, you become one. The fog lifts slowly, like someone exhaling around you. And just like that, you're back. In the weaver's house. But the light is harsher. Now the shadows sharper. One of the elders sees your face and stands quickly. You saw her. He says. You nod. He doesn't ask what she said. He just looks at your wrist. The thread is gone, but a faint black line, like a scar, coils gently around your forearm, like something branded or planted. You sit, but it's not from fatigue. It's from the weight. The knowledge. The quiet ache of knowing you can't unknow. That evening, the others gather around a small fire in the courtyard. Someone strums a lyre. Someone else hums softly, off-key. You don't join the music, but you listen, because from now on, you are the quiet part of the song, the part that burns underneath. The pattern isn't broken yet, but it's weakening, thread by thread, and you, soft-spoken, wide-eyed, heavy-wristed, you are holding the match. You wander again, not out of confusion, but out of curiosity. The kind that comes not from getting lost, but from letting go of the need to arrive. The sun above is hazy, like it's been wrapped in cotton, warm but shy. The kind of light that makes colors softer. Terracotta roofs turn to rose, olive trees to watercolor green. Athens breathes differently today. The streets aren't quieter. They're older, and you feel it in your feet, in the solace of your sandals. Like the stones are carrying more than just footsteps. Like they're remembering. You find yourself drifting south, to a part of the city where the walls lean in too close, and the windows seem to blink when you're not looking. The air smells of crushed time and wet clay. A street musician plucks a slow tune nearby, something wistful, meandering, as if he too is trying to recall a story forgotten. A group of boys kick a leather ball down a dusty alley. The ball thuds against the base of a column that doesn't belong here, half buried, broken at the top, its carving too worn to read. You reach down, run your fingers across the fluted stone. It's warm from the sun. Grit clings to your skin. Dust. That's all it is, but also not all. An old woman watches you from a doorway. Her voice is papery but clear. You're not the first to stop there. You look up. She nods toward the stone. That's what's left of the Hall of Records. You blink. There was a hall? Was long ago. Before the fires, before they decided which stories deserved to survive. She spits softly to the side, then disappears back inside, leaving only the faint creak of her door and a thought. Sharp as flint, lodged behind your ribs, you sit, right there. In the dust. It feels almost rude not to. The wind swirls lazily, lifting little ghosts of sand around you. Somewhere a bee bumbles past your ear. The smell of old stone rises as your palms press into the earth. And something whispers, not a loud, just beneath things, like the dry crackle of parchment. Caught in wind, you close your eyes. You begin to see the city as it was. Not marble and glory, not gold and triumph, but paperwork. So much paperwork. Stone tablets, wax seals, clay jars filled with census lists and voting records and crop tallies. The real skeleton of civilization. The Matroon, that was its name, a building in the very heart of Athens where the records of the polis were stored. Not just laws and decrees, but everything. Trials, wills, birth names, building permits. The city's memory, carved in ink and ash. And it's gone. Most tourists skip the spot entirely. It's not flashy. No columns left. No epic myths painted on the walls. But if you press your hand into the dirt, as you do now, you could almost feel the indentations of what once was, like the grooves left behind after someone erases a chalkboard too quickly. Here's a fact not many people know. The original laws of Athens were stored beneath the feet of the goddess, hidden in a room under the temple of the mother, because even the divine didn't want to look at the fine print too often. You let your thoughts drift. Imagine some poor scribe, bent over a cracked scroll, sweating through his tunic in the heat, tasked with recording a property dispute between neighbors, arguing over whose goat knocked over whose amphora. History isn't always battles and gods. Sometimes it's bureaucracy and broken clay. You smile to yourself, but then your fingers brush something in the dirt, something sharp. You dig, slowly, carefully, and uncover a shard of ceramic. Faint red figures still dance across its edge, a bit of a robe, a heel, a trailing hand, part of a scene. Long broken. You hold it like a secret, like it might still remember who dropped it. Some scholars believe these broken POTs ostraka were the foundation of Athenian democracy. You scratch your head. Imagine being so unpopular that someone scratched your name on a pot to have you kicked out of the city. Still, it beats Twitter. A sudden gust of wind lifts a swirl of dust, and in it, you catch the faintest sound, like pages fluttering in a sealed room. Or maybe that's your own heartbeat, echoing in the old bones of the earth. You press your palm flat to the ground again, and listen. Really, listen. The way you did in the weaver's house. The way you did in the forest. There's something here, not a voice, not even a memory. Just presence, stillness wrapped in time, a quiet ache in the stone. You whisper to the dirt, not words, exactly. Just permission. To be remembered. To be heard. To be enough. When you open your eyes again, the wind has died down. The shard in your hand is warm now. You brush it clean, tuck it into your pouch beside the dried fig. A little archive of your wanderings. You rise, your knees crack. Your back protest. Memory is heavy, even when it fits in your pocket. As you turn away from the cracked plaza, your eye catches a small engraving on the wall. Recent, probably just a prank, but it's shaped like a spool of thread, carved shallow, then quickly scraped over, as if someone didn't want it seen. You smile, because it means they came here, too. The weavers. The quiet ones, the ones who remember what dust tries to swallow. You touch the mark once, then keep walking. The road ahead curves gently toward something deeper, something hidden beneath the city itself. And the dust stirs again, just behind you. The tunnel entrance isn't marked. It hides behind a crumbling mosaic wall, half swallowed by ivy and time. One of those places that looks so forgotten, your eyes almost skip over it, like the city itself is trying to forget what it once knew. The mark is there, scratched faintly into the keystone, a thread looping once, then cut. It matches the one you found yesterday. And the one near the broken statue. They're not symbols anymore. They're directions. Whispers. Threads left behind for those who still know how to listen. You duck inside. The passage is low, barely Taller than you, the air is thick, cool, but not fresh. It carries that deep mineral scent of old earth, clay, and something harder to name. Not decay. Not quite memory. Just density, like time has settled here. The stone walls sweat softly, and your fingers brush moisture as you trail them along the surface. Dust rises with each step, coating your throat in a dryness that tastes like forgotten names. You walk slowly, because slowness feels respectful here. The corridor winds left, then left again. You're descending now, not sharply, but inevitably. Each step presses you deeper into quiet. The city above fades like a distant conversation. Only your breath remains. That, and the faint echo of your sandals on worn stone. And then, without warning, the tunnel widens. You step into a chamber. Not grand, but vast in a different way. The way a library feels vast, even when it's small. Because of what it holds. The ceiling curves like a rib cage. The walls are carved with faint lines, some decorative, some just tally marks, or the scrawlings of idle hands waiting out centuries. And in the center, a loom. The largest you've ever seen. It's not gilded. Not holy. Just wood and bone and sinew. And silence. The threads strung across it stretch from wall to wall, so taut you can almost hear them hum when the air moves. They glow faintly, not with magic, but with memory. You approach. Each thread is different. One is coarse, stained with soot. Another is smooth as water, but frayed near the center. One looks like a child's hair, caught mid-braid. One looks like the thread you once wore. You reach out to touch one, and the world shudders. You're standing in a market. Bright sun, screaming merchants, olives in wooden bowls. Then a courtroom, a child speaking up, voice trembling, naming a man no one wants to accuse. Then a rooftop. Two women leaning close, whispering their names into each other's mouths like a promise the gods forgot to forbid. Then darkness. Silence. The thread slips from your hand. You fall back, gasping. This loom isn't for fabric. It's for memory, for truth. This is where forgotten moments come when no one else will hold them. And someone has been weaving them. All this time. There's movement in the shadows. A woman steps forward. Her hands are calloused, wrapped in linen. Her robe is simple, the hem stained with dirt and candle wax. Her eyes meet yours, sharp, but tired. You recognize her. Not from temples or myths, from the quiet, the waiting, the work. She's been here longer than records, longer than Arachne's curse, longer than the lies. She nods once, then gestures to the stool beside her. You sit. No words. No instructions. Just silence and threads. She hands you one. It's red. Heavy. You don't ask whose memory it holds. You just begin to weave. Clumsy at first. Then slower, then steadier. With each motion, the past unfolds. You see a midwife hiding pregnant women during a siege. You see a teacher writing forbiddance, poetry on scraps of bread, so her students can eat knowledge and survive. You see a boy folding papyrus into tiny boats and letting them drift downstream, carrying songs his village was no longer allowed to sing. Somewhere behind you, the city shifts. You hear it. Footsteps above. A cartwheel squeaking. A laugh. None of them know what's down here. None of them imagine the weight being held beneath their feet. And maybe that's good. Memory needs protection. Some truths are too soft for daylight. The woman beside you speaks at last. Her voice is so low, it feels like it was meant for the stone more than for you. They unbuilt the libraries. She pauses, but not all of them burned. You glance around. The chamber isn't a ruin. It's a record. A quiet one. No scrolls, just thread. Here's a fact. In 86 BCE, Athens was sacked by the Roman general Sulla. The Matroon was looted. Temples burned. Archives lost. But not all knowledge is stored in ink. Some lives, some truths, survive in stories told under breath, in symbols scratched on walls, in the careful hands of women who know how to wait. You are sitting in one of the last looms of the old world. And it is still working, thread by thread, memory by memory. You don't finish the weave. No one ever does, but the motion stays in your muscles. And when you rise, the woman doesn't stop you. She simply nods again, as if to say, you know the way back, and you do. The tunnel feels different as you return, not brighter, but warmed. Live dash and you run your fingers along the wall again. It hums faintly, the way your skin hums when someone remembers your name out loud. At the exit, the ivy parts just enough to let you through. And as you step into the sun, Athens greets you like nothing's changed. But something has, and it's not the city. The sun feels heavier today. Not hotter, just more present. Like it's watching. Like it knows you're carrying something now, something the light usually avoids. You squint as you walk, the city stretching ahead like a scroll halfway unrolled. Athens doesn't shout its history. It rests in it. Beneath your feet, centuries. Above your head, legends. But in between, in the shade, the cracks, the half-remembered corners, that's where the real voices live. In today, they're whispering again. You turn down a quiet street paved in uneven stone. It's not on any map. At least not the kind tourists use. The walls are. Closer here, ivy spills like spilled ink down their sides. A single breeze carries the faint scent of figs and bronze. And there, tucked beside a worn gate, is a statue garden. Not a museum, not even fenced, just a yard. Cracked pillars stand, like teeth, broken at the top. Statues lean awkwardly, as if frozen mid-step. Some are missing arms, some heads. A few are so worn, you can barely tell who they once were. But the space is still tender. Like someone remembers them, even if no one else does. You enter slowly. Your sandals crunch against gravel. Somewhere, a cicada drones in the sun. The statues don't move, but the air does. It shifts around. You like warm water. And then, ever so faintly, you hear it. Not a voice. Not at first a murmur. A breath through stone. A sound too soft to chase, but too steady to ignore. You walk deeper into the garden. Here's a fact. Many of these statues were once placed in temples, homes, even on streets as guardians or gifts. When regimes changed or beliefs shifted, they were buried, or broken, or simply turned away to face the wall. Some were gods once, others just faces, muses, nymphs, forgotten river spirits. Even personified virtues, modesty, loyalty, regret. They were carved with care, then left with silence. You stop beside a half-toppled column. At its base, a statue of a woman sits, one arm cradling her knee, the other broken off entirely. Her face is pitted by rain, but her gaze remains, downward, gentle, thoughtful. A small plaque nearby reads, faintly, Lethe, she who offers forgetting. Shiver, not from cold, from recognition, because there's something familiar in her quiet. In the way she sits still, as if waiting for someone to ask her what she's been keeping all this time. You sit across from her, just the two of you. No guides. No plaques. No context. Just presence. And slowly, you hear it. Not with your ears. With your skin. With your breath. Lethe speaks. Not aloud. Not in words, but in feelings. You feel drowsy, warm, not tired, just soothed. Like her stone eyes have seen every version of grief, and still invite you to rest a moment longer. A breeze lifts, and you feel it against your neck like a lullaby. You close your eyes and fall, not asleep, but backward. Into memory. You see the women who once prayed to Lethe, not for oblivion, but for mercy. A widow begging to forget her husband's final cough. A mother trying to unremember the scent of war on her child's clothes. A girl who cannot forgive the sound of her own voice when she said yes, out of fear. They didn't want everything erased, just enough to keep living, just the sharp edges softened. Here's something most people don't know. Lethe wasn't just a river in the underworld. She was once worshipped as a goddess of necessary forgetting. A balm, a blessing, a second chance. But later, poets made her sinister, dangerous, because memory was sacred, and forgetting was weakness, not at least to them. You, however, feel differently. Now you understand why some things need to blur at the edges. The breeze shifts, and another whisper follows. Different voice, different statue. A figure further down, tall, regal, missing one hand but holding an intact scroll in the other. You walk to her slowly. Her robe still carries the outline of folds long since smoothed by wind and time. She does not introduce herself, but you sense it. Mnemos. Yne. Mother of the Muses, the goddess of memory, Lethe and Mnemosyne, side by side. In the garden, not enemies. Balance. And here's the strange part. You feel both of them in your chest. The part that wants to remember, and the part that quietly asks, must I? You think about the loom beneath the city, the burning thread. The faces you've seen. Some truths ache more when repeated, but others vanish if not held tight. This garden isn't here to answer which ones to keep. It's here to remind you that you must choose. Somewhere behind you, a wind chime stirs. Not from wind, from something older. And you remember one more thing. Some scholars still debate whether Mnemosyne and Lethe were ever truly separate. Were they sisters? Halves of the same? Or simply mirrors, reflecting back what the other refused to see? History hasn't agreed. But the statues don't care. They just wait and listen, like they always have. You rise slowly. Give each statue a small nod, even the ones with no names. Especially the ones with no names, because they still whisper. Maybe not to everyone, but to those who carry memory like thread across the wrist. They hum. As you leave the garden, the sun dips behind a cloud. Shadows stretch long and gold. Athens exhales, and so do you. There's a path ahead. It curves gently uphill. At the top, you see a roof line, pale and familiar. You squint and realize you're walking toward the temple again. The temple doesn't look different. That's the strange part. Same columns, same chipped steps, same stubborn laurel tree leaning against the outer wall like it's tired of pretending to be sacred. But as you approach, there's a heaviness in the air, not oppressive, just alert. Like the stones remember you, and they're deciding whether to let you back in. Your footsteps echo as you climb the stairs, not sharply, the way boots might, but with a soft rhythm, the kind sandals make when the foot hesitates ever so slightly. You reach the threshold, and a breeze slides past your ankles, cool and dry. It smells like dust and rosemary and something faintly metallic, maybe old coins, maybe old blood. You step inside. The air changes. The temple is empty, but not silent. Low hum lives in the walls. Not music, not chanting. Just the vibration of being old and not being forgotten. You walk slowly past the inner columns. Shadows stretch like ancient fingers. The floor is smoother than you remember. The torch brackets are empty, but light filters down from a cracked dome above, painting patterns on the stone like moving lace. And there, at the far end, she waits. Athena. She hasn't changed. Helmet angled just so. Spear upright. Eyes forward. She's carved in such stillness that even the air around her seems to pause. You approach, not quite knowing why. Not to pray, not to demand, just to stand near her again. But something is different. Not her. You remember the first time you stood here. The awe, the weight, the way your chest filled with questions too big for your tongue. You remember staring at her woven cloak, at the Medusa pinned to her breastplate, wondering how anyone could carry so many contradictions at once. Now, you understand a little better. You've met the quiet goddesses. Heard the whispers beneath marble. Felt the pull of forgotten memory. Athena stares straight ahead, but somehow you feel her watching you. And then softly, not aloud, but inside you, A thought rises. You have walked the thread. You swallow. The air shifts. Your skin ICKLES. It's not fear. It's recognition. You kneel. Not out of obligation, but respect. And for a moment, everything is still. Then the softest sound, a creak. Stone on stone. You look up. One of the panels behind the statue has opened. A crack, a door. You move toward it, hesitant, compelled. Behind it, stairs. Down again. The Greeks loved their stairs. Every revelation seems to be buried 6 meters under. Something else. You descend slowly, the air thickening with each step. Torch niches line the walls, unlit. The only light is from above Athena's hall, and it fades quickly. You reach the bottom and step into a room with no name. There are no carvings. Here, no statues, just shelves. Thousands of tiny clay tablets, rolled scrolls, scraps of linen, inked with symbols that don't belong to any single language. You're standing in the original archive, not the official one. The hidden one, what the priests never showed, what the city forgot to mention, what the weavers whispered about, what the statues guarded. This is where stories came to hide. You reach for a scroll at random. The parchment cracks slightly, but holds. The ink is faded but visible, and it doesn't begin with once upon a time. It begins with, she was never meant to be remembered. You read the rest. Slowly. The story of a girl who outran the wolves, but not the rumors. Of how she built a temple from mud and kept it warm for strangers. Of how she spoke a truth so painful that the priests called her mad and buried her name beneath taxes and war records. And how her story ended not with silence, but with someone remembering. You put the scroll back and take another. This one's in a language you don't know, but the rhythm feels familiar, the rise and fall of it, like a mother's voice over a fire. You can't translate it, but you feel it. The room doesn't hum like the temple above. It breathes, slowly, steadily. With you. Here's something historians argue about: whether temples like this ever held secret chambers for forbidden knowledge. Some say it's a romantic fantasy. Others have found evidence of sealed rooms, walls rebuilt, archives with no records. No one agrees, but you're standing in one now, and it remembers you. You sit on the floor. No rush. You leaf through fragments. Stories written on the back of broken contracts, lullabies scribbled in margins, recipes folded around confessions. Each one tiny, fragile, important. You feel time press around you like warm clay. There's no goddess here, only echo, only you. Eventually, you rise. The tablets stay behind, but something in your chest feels heavier. A soft kind of heavy. Like wearing someone else's coat and finding a letter in the pocket. You climb the stairs again. The door closes behind you. Athena hasn't moved, but maybe. Her eyes have softened. Maybe. As you leave the temple, the late sun pours over you like honey. Slow, thick, soft. Children are laughing somewhere. A dog barks once, then stretches into sleep. And you walk on, toward the next thread, toward the next whisper. The city exhales. And so do you. You don't plan where your feet go. They simply go. Past quiet courtyards, past cracked mosaics and faded murals no one's bothered to restore. The city breathes gently around you, like it's drifting between naps. Even the birds seem to coo. Softer now, their wings slicing the warm air like silk. You pass under a low archway, and suddenly, the quiet breaks. But not with noise. With music. It's faint at first. A slow rhythm, carried on strings, lyres maybe, and the occasional beat of a skin drum, soft as a heartbeat. You follow without thinking, like someone following the smell of something baking they didn't know they missed. The music gets closer. You begin to hear laughter, not sharp, modern laughter, not ironic, not forced. Just joy. Low and warm and full of breath. You turn a corner. And find them, a square, One you've never seen, though you've walked these streets for days now. It glows with firelight, though no fires are visible. The stones beneath your feet are still warm from the sun, but flicker as if lit by something older. And in the center, a festival. But not like the ones you know. There are no banners, no merchants, no screaming, just people. Dancing. Smiling. Telling stories. All in silence. No one acknowledges you. Not with words, but a woman with silver painted eyelids presses a cool cup into your hand as she passes. It smells of herbs and honey, and something tart, like memories you haven't swallowed yet. You sip, and feel your chest loosen, like a knot undone without you realizing it was there. They dance without music now, just the rhythm of feet, of scarves thrown in the air like prayers, of hands meeting hands, palms sliding past each other in long forgotten patterns. It doesn't feel rehearsed. It feels ancient. Older than precision, more honest than perfection. You sit on the edge of the square. The drink buzzes gently behind your eyes. Someone offers you figs, split open and warm. Another brushes your shoulder with painted fingers and whispers a name, not yours, but maybe who you used to be. The night thickens. The stars blink slower. And then a voice. It rises from the center of the dancers. A woman, barefoot, cloaked in ivy. She holds no microphone, no scroll, no staff. Just presence. And when she speaks, it's not in Greek, not in English, not even aloud. It's in the language of rhythm and breath and firelight on cheekbones. You understand her. Anyway, we dance so they remember, she says, or thinks or hums. Not what happened, but what it felt like. A low chorus follows. Her, dozens of voices, all mismatched but harmonious. They wrote laws and battles. We kept the ache. They crowned kings. We carried the shadows. They forgot, so we dance. You begin to see the faces more clearly now. Some are goddesses. You recognize no names, only moods. The one whose shoulders carry thunder, but whose eyes carry quiet apology. The one with hands stained red, gently threading flowers through another's hair. The one who wears no feet, only smoke. They are not worshipped, but they are real. You sense that this is their night, once a year, or once a century. The timing doesn't matter. They return and move. So that something in the world doesn't completely freeze. Here's a strange fact. In ancient Athens, there were festivals so small, so local, that they left no records. Some were held only by women. Some were whispered, not shouted. Some were danced, not written. We know this because later priests tried to ban them, but what's been banned often blooms. Underground. In fireligh. In rhythm. In bodies remembering what words forget. You find yourself standing now. Your limbs heavy, but not tired. The woman with ivy gestures to you, not like a leader. Like a friend. You step forward. Hands meet yours. Your feet copy theirs. You don't know the dance, but your body remembers. 1-2-3. Turn. Touch. Back. Breathe. Again. Each movement a memory you didn't know you had, not yours maybe, but carried through you now. You laugh, not because it's funny, but because your chest is too full not to. You dance until the night softens. Until your skin shines. Until your breath is shared with 100 strangers who feel like old gods in borrowed skin. And when the rhythm fades, no one claps. No one speaks. They just drift. Back into doorways. Back into trees. Back into memory. You sit once more. The drink is gone. The fig is gone. The firelight fades. Only the warmth remains. You touch the stone beneath you. It's still warm. Not from the sun, but from the people who've danced here for centuries. Forgotten. Erased. Remembered again. You smile. And rise. The path ahead glows faintly. As if marked by sandals older than the street itself. You follow it. Slowly. At first, it's subtle. A shadow stretched too long. A street you're sure you passed. but now it curves the other way. A smell of pine or sea, or maybe burning honey, that drifts in without warning and vanishes before you can find its source. You blink more often now, not out of tiredness, out of uncertainty. Your feet walk without protest, but your chest. It carries a weight you didn't pack. Not sadness, not dread. Just layers. As if every step you take presses memory against memory, truth against story, and ask softly, which of these did you live? You pause at a doorway, carved into the lintel. Is a symbol you don't recognize, but you remember it. How is that possible? You press your hand against the stone. It hums. Inside, silence, a simple room, stone bench, dust, a jug, a comb left on a ledge, and a mirror, polished bronze, warped slightly. At the edges, you stare into it. You see your face, then your mother's, then a woman who could be your daughter, all in the same eyes. The reflection doesn't blur. You do. You step back. The room tilts, slightly. Only slightly. Like the world is beginning to fray. You close your eyes, take a breath. But even your breath feels borrowed. Like someone else once inhaled in this exact rhythm, in this exact place. And now you're simply repeating it. You step outside. Athens is still there, but it shimmers. The streets carry more color now, not brighter, just deeper. The whites are warmer, the shadows cooler. Faces pass by, some known, some half known. A vendor offers you olives, but she has no mouth. You take one anyway. It tastes like memory. Here's a truth most never learn. Memory isn't one thread. It's a braid. Stories, sensations, fears, dreams, all knotted together until they feel like one rope. Pull one piece loose, and the whole thing begins to unravel. You are unraveling. Gently. Like silk from a forgotten spool. You walk on. Past a fountain that sings in three voices at once. Past a man arguing with his own shadow. Past a child drawing circles in the dust that glow as you pass. Everything looks familiar. Everything feels imagined. You sit beneath a fig tree. Its fruit is overripe, dripping onto the stones. You taste one. It tastes like the story of your first regret. The ground below you begins to hum, not shake. Hum. Softly. Rhythmically. Like a loom. But you're not beneath the city anymore. You're in it. And around it. And somehow, before it. Time folds. Your memory stretches. You remember stories from before you were born. You see a priestess standing on a cliff, arguing with lightning. You see a soldier throwing down his shield and choosing to paint instead. You see a woman dancing while a city burns, and the flames part for her feet. None of these are your memories, but they're woven into you now. Your chest aches, not from pain, from overfullness. And here's where it gets stranger. You see Athena. Not the statue, not the marble version. Her. In motion. Not armored. Not distant, wearing sandals. Carrying a basket of figs. She walks past you, touches your shoulder, and says, "You're late." The world blinks. You're in a room again, the loom room. Threads stretch in every direction, but this time, they move, writhing, twisting, searching. Some reach toward you. You back away. They follow. One wraps around your wrist. It's cold, wet, like seaweed soaked in memory. A voice whispers, "Tell me what you are." You open your mouth, but you don't know. You say a name, it flickers. You say a city, it fades. You say, "I remember." And everything goes quiet. The threads pause, then release. You fall, not down. Inward. You land on a floor made of words. Each tile a sentence. You try to read them, but they move. They change depending on what you believe. One says, "You were never a guest. This city made you." Another says, "Memory isn't what you keep. It's what keeps you." A third, "You can't wake up until you know what you dreamed." You lie back, close your eyes, and let the floor carry you. Here's what some historians argue about Whether myths are just metaphors, or if they once were reality bent into story. Whether Athena, Arachne, Mnemosyne ever lived as people before they became gods. Whether we worship memory or fear it. No consensus. Only threads, only names, only stories. And you, caught in all of them, you wake beneath the fig tree again. No. Music. No FIRELIGHT. That's the breeze. The city is quiet. Normal. But in your hand, one of the loom threads still lingers. Thin. Frail. Still warm. Rise. You're not sure who you are, but you know what you carry. You walk forward. Each step a question. Each breath a choice. The world does not resist. You. It waits. It listens. The thread in your hand glows faintly, and you follow it. The thread leads you north. Uphill. Away from the temples and statues. Away from the dance. Away from everything loud and golden, and made to last. The city quiets. Stone gives way to soil. The wind smells of time and ancient dust. Your sandals scuff. A narrow path lined with grasses that whisper like paper. No. One follows. But you're not alone. You can feel them. All of them. Arachne is waiting. You know it before you see her. The thread in your hand pulls tighter, vibrating faintly like a heartbeat. Not urgent, just alive. You crest a ridge and find the clearing. A circle of standing stones, toppled and weathered, surrounds a single, sagging loom. Wooden, crooked, quiet, but still intact. And she is there. She is not monstrous, not twisted, not crawling, not cursed. She is simply seated, a woman with long arms and longer silence, hair the color of dried leaves, fingers stained with thread, eyes like broken light. She doesn't look up as you approach, but you feel her see you, like a thread tugging behind your ribs. You don't speak. Not yet. You just watch. Her hands move across the loom like water. Each pass of the shuttle draws out colors you can't name. Not quite gold, not quite bone, not quite the shade of old sorrow. The tapestry grows. Not fast. Not perfect, but certain. Each thread placed with the weight of someone who knows too much to rush. Finally, she speaks. Softly. So many want to weave the truth. But most don't survive what it costs. You don't answer. You don't need to. She nods slightly, as if you passed a test by staying silent. Then, her hands still. She looks at you, directly now. Sit. So you do, across from her, on stone warmed by memory. She places a new shuttle in your lap. The loom groans. A single thread lies across the empty side. It's yours. The one you've carried all this way. You place it into the warp. Not the moment. Your fingers release it. The loom shifts. Its size. Like a cathedral. EXHALING. Images ripple across the tapestry. You see your own footprints retraced. You see the statues, the festival, the mirror, the names, the fig tree, all woven beside a dozen other paths. Not as if your journey was unique, but as if it was one of many, overlapping like threads in a braid. Each story stitching into the next. Each memory answering another. Each goddess whispering into the ear of the next girl who would walk alone. You turn to Arachne. Her eyes glint with something you can't name. They say I lost, she murmurs. Then she smiles. But they still talk about me. She taps the loom gently. What is woven stays. A pause, then almost a whisper. Athena knew that. Here's something most people never learn. The contest between Arachne and Athena wasn't just about pride. It was about what gets remembered. Arachne didn't weave falsehoods. She wove the gods' secrets, and that was the insult. Some say her punishment was turning into a spider, but some say she became the first memory weaver. The one who dared to thread the parts history tried to shred apart, and now, so do. You touch the loom again, and it answers. Threads spin out, not from spools, but from memory, from smell, from voice, From the way your feet ached on temple steps. From the sound of forgotten names falling like dust in the dark. You don't weave a story. You weave a feeling. And somehow, that's enough. Arachne watches. She doesn't smile, but her hands rest still. Peaceful. You finish the last thread. It doesn't end in a knot. It just fades. Into the edge. And the tapestry hums. Here's what scholars argue about. Whether Arachne truly became a spider. Whether the tapestry survived. Whether any loom could hold the truth she wove. Some say the gods burned it. Others say it still lies buried beneath the Acropolis. But you know the truth, because you helped finish it. You rise. The loom is quiet now, the air still. Arachne meets your eyes one last time. No curse. No blessing. Just the shared silence of two people who've seen too much and kept weaving anyway. You turn. And walk down the path. The sky above you shimmers like cloth, like memory. Like something finally whole. You don't remember leaving the clearing. You don't remember saying goodbye. But the path is beneath your feet again. Soft, familiar. The same stones, the same dust. The same slow, sighing wind brushing against your skin like the hem of someone's robe. The city doesn't loom anymore. It listens. It waits, like it knows you've changed. And it's giving you time to notice. Your hands are empty. Now. No scroll. No thread. No cup of memory. But your chest holds something different. Not heavy. Not sharp. Just full. Like a story you haven't told yet. But one that no longer needs to be said aloud. You pass a wall you passed days ago. This time, you notice a crack shaped like a question mark. The vines hug it like they know the answer. You stop by a well. Its rope is frayed. The bucket leans against the stone, split and dry. But when you peer inside, you see your own face, tired, soft, clear, and something else. Behind you. Faint. A shimmer. A thread, not pulling you anywhere now, just trailing, marking where you've been. Wander through the lower streets. The bakery scent is still there. Figs and cinnamon and bread that forgot it needed salt. Children run past, chasing each other with sticks and laughter. An old woman nods at you. And for a moment, she has Lethe's eyes. Then she blinks, and is only herself again. The sun begins to fall. Not crash. Just lean. It tips behind a roofline like someone curling. Up in bed. Shadows stretch. Voices soften. The city exhales. And so do you. You find your place. Not a temple. Not a cave. Not a shrine. Just a bench. Warm. Quiet. Home. Enough. Here's something no scholar can ever agree on. Whether myth ever really ends. Whether the story closes or simply fades. Whether the gods sleep when no one's looking, or if they become the quiet in between our thoughts. But here's what you now know. Some truths aren't kept in words. They're kept in thread. In shadow. In fig trees. In laughter after dancing. And in people like you, who listen. Even when the world forgets. The wind shifts. Not sharply. Just enough to remind you it's still there. It carries rosemary, ash, and the faintest sound of a loom creaking. Far away, you close your eyes and feel every step you've taken settle gently. In your chest. Not as weight. As warmth. Your body relaxes. Shoulders drop. Jaw softens. Fingers unfurl. Thoughts slow. The city wraps around you like linen. Cool. Loose. Loved. You let it go. The names. The questions. Even the story. You don't need to carry it anymore, because it will carry you now. Softly. Quietly. With every breath. You drift. Down. In. Warm. Still. Of script. Sweet dreams.